You know, I get tired of reporting stories on this channel that should never happen, and this is a perfect example of that. Because a man who was out on bond for 4 years when he was arrested on a capital murder charge was recently convicted not of that capital murder, but of another capital murder that he committed against an 11-year-old boy while trying apparently to kill his stepfather. We're going to get into this. We're going to talk about this. But before we do, I have to toss it over to the sponsor who makes videos like this possible. So be sure to come back on the other side of this read. The U.S. debt spike could lead to a long-term rally for gold. Since March of 2020, we've added $8 trillion to our debt. Combine that with the Federal Reserve interest rate hikes, and now our debt service payments surpass over $1 trillion. And over that same period of time, gold is up 50%. Now we're starting to see oil-rich countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and BRICS come together on deals to possibly toss the United States petrodollar, and this could wreak disaster not only for you, but for your portfolio. This is one of the reasons why I'm happy to be partnering with National Gold Group. You can contact them and talk about diversifying your portfolio in order to hedge against the potential crisis. You can call them at 866-826-2603, talk to an American-based customer service representative, and go over your options. Again, that's 866-826-2603, and mention Actual Justice Warriors so that they know that I sent you. There is always a risk whenever you're investing, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results. So Desmond Hawkins, who is a known gang member in the Houston area, was recently sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the murder of an 11-year-old boy that he committed while trying to kill his stepfather. Apparently, again, the details on that are even a little bit sketchy, but what makes this story really stand out is the fact that he was already under supervision because he was released on a capital murder that was committed 4 years earlier.
Developing tonight, a man is charged with murdering an 11-year-old boy in Houston, and we first confirmed the suspect was out on bond for another murder at the time the boy was shot to death. Senior reporter Phil Archer's live now in Midtown with those details. Phil?
Yeah, it's something of a milestone for Harris County. A capital murder defendant, free on bond, awaiting trial, charged in a second capital murder. No one can remember that ever happening before.
Now, 2 years ago when this case happened, this may very well have been a first-of-its-kind type of case in the city of Houston, but make no mistake, Houston judges and their woke district attorney, who, to give her credit, I've heard has been improving as a prosecutor as she's been in office, continually release people out on bond for capital murder, despite the fact that these people are incredibly dangerous and likely to reoffend. So what went down on October 26, 2020 was as follows.
Wednesday, Hawkins was charged with capital murder again, as well as a separate charge of murder for a double killing last October at a Westside apartment building. 41-year-old Minville Solomon was shot as he tried to protect 11-year-old Dominic Sumchek. Both died.
Authorities say Hawkins shot and killed the boy and his stepfather, 41-year-old Manuel Solomon, while the two sat in Solomon's car outside their home. The little boy's name was Dominic Sumchek, and according to Kimberly Ogg, a little boy with his whole life ahead of him was murdered because of a cold-blooded ambush in broad daylight. This was a capital murder, and the appropriate sentence is life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, call me crazy, but I think the appropriate sentence for a capital murder of an 11-year-old boy when it's your second murder should possibly be a capital sentence, the death penalty. Not life without the possibility of parole, but at least Ogg prosecuted this case and secured a conviction so that this individual will at least remain locked up and removed from society, something they probably should have done, and by probably, I mean definitely, after the first murder that this person committed.
The defendant is 21-year-old Desmond Hawkins. He was first charged with capital murder after allegedly killing a man during a street robbery in 2016. Judge Maria Jackson allowed Hawkins to go free after posting a $90,000 bond, according to court documents, a move victim rights advocate Andy Kahn says would never have happened just a few years ago.
You just didn't get out on bond for capital murder. but I'm seeing this almost on a routine basis.
Now, at the time of Sumakek's murder, investigators said Hawkins was free on bond for a capital murder that occurred on October 10th, 2016. In that case, authorities said Hawkins was arrested for shooting, killing, and robbing John Pye, a man he knew. Hawkins was then released on bond with an ankle monitor equipped with a GPS tracker. According to Ogg, he was wearing the monitor when he killed the boy and his stepfather 4 years later. Look, I understand that in a free society, not every crime is preventable. I understand in a free society that sometimes things that are awful just happen, but 2 people are dead in this instance when it was clearly and obviously preventable, not just from the capital murder charge that he was released with an ankle monitor on, but because the police had prior warning about this offender a week in advance when another attempt was made on the stepfather's life. About a week before the shooting, investigators said the boy's stepfather reported to the police that a man that he did not know tried to kill him by shooting him while he was parking his Mercedes-Benz sedan in the driveway of his West Houston townhouse. Solomon told police he did not know why he was targeted. So again, we have somebody out on capital murder. He is violating the terms of his bond consistently, yet his bond is not being revoked by the city of Houston, by Houston judges, so he remains on the street. A week prior to this double murder, he ends up attempting murder on the 41-year-old stepfather. It is reported to the police, and the police are unable to find this individual, even though, again, he has a GPS tracking device that places him at the scene of the crime for both instances. On the day of the murder, the GPS monitor that Hawkins was wearing showed that he was walking around Solomon's driveway and waiting for him to come home. Hawkins cut a hole in the chain link fence to get to the man faster and waited for at least 3 hours for Solomon to come home and murder him. Solomon backed into his driveway with the child in the passenger seat at about 4:30 p.m. Hawkins reportedly went through the hole in the fence and shot the 11-year-old twice, and then shot Solomon 4 times, killing them both. Along with GPS monitoring records, investigators said surveillance video from nearby cameras showed Hawkins running toward the scene wearing the ankle monitor, and according to Ogg, it remains unclear why Hawkins targeted Solomon. So here we have a guy who murdered somebody in cold blood after a previous attempt the week prior. We have no known motivation even after the conviction for this crime. We have no idea why he did it. But more crucially, this is somebody who should have never been out in the first place, as he was already on trial, already arrested for a capital murder, and for whatever reason, it took 4+ years for that to be adjudicated to the point where he was able to commit this crime, killing this stepfather and his 11-year-old stepson. And to make matters worse, according to varying accounts, the stepfather appeared to have tried to shield his son from the bullets that Hawkins was firing in this brutal ambush murder. So you have a stepfather trying to give his life for his son, but ultimately failing because both of them died in this instance. And again, we have no reason for this crime to even have occurred in the first place, but we know for a fact that there was no reason for Hawkins to be out on the streets at the time that he committed this murder. It could have easily been prevented, but Houston has decided that even committing a capital murder or being suspected of a capital murder is not something that should get you held awaiting trial, because I don't know if you guys are aware of this, holding a suspect awaiting trial could be a product of our racist criminal justice system, and it's unfair to Desmond Hawkins to deny him the God-given right to murder a father and his stepson, because, you know, why would we want to prevent that from happening when we could fight evil white racism? Now, according to the prosecutor who actually tried the case, this was an orchestrated hit, and the jury did the right thing convicting him of capital murder. Now, as I stated before, the fact that he cut a hole in the fence so that he could ambush this person easier, the fact that he waited around the driveway for 3 hours in order to commit this murder goes to show you all of the requisite premeditation and intent. He acted in cold blood, so it's unsurprising that the jury convicted based on these charges. But again, the point of this case is not how horrific the crime is not how much of a layup this prosecution was, because while that is definitely true, and that is something that you should take note of, the fact of the matter is Desmond Hawkins should have never been out on the streets to commit this crime, yet he was released by a criminal justice system that catered more to the criminal than to the victim. Now, as stated repeatedly throughout the course of this article, throughout the course of the statements of the prosecutor, this appears to be an orchestrated hit, which would lead us to believe that perhaps there is somebody else behind this, because the prosecutors have yet to establish a connection between Hawkins and the victims. It doesn't make any sense, but again, all of this should be moot because this person should have never been out in the first place. He was given a second chance, and now an 11-year-old and a stepfather are dead because of it. Because the system was more interested in sparing this guy the suffering of waiting for his trial in a Houston jail for a capital murder. 2 additional people are dead, and for whatever reason, even though these are capital murder charges, it doesn't appear they can secure a death penalty conviction, because apparently you're allowed to kill 3 people in the city of Houston, and then maybe they'll take it seriously, but not to the point where they'll try to secure a capital murder conviction against you. It's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely horrific. Houston is absolute trash in terms of a city. Its judges are a gigantic problem, but more importantly, if you are the Republican governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, you can't allow this to go on. You can't allow the justice system in your largest city to be corrupted to such a point where this becomes commonplace. And if you think that Houston has stopped releasing people out on bond for capital murder, you're deadly mistaken.
Khan says it's part of a disturbing trend. Since 2018, he's tracked more than 70 cases where people were murdered by dangerous felony suspects who'd been freed on bond after being charged with violent crime.
If you think that more people who are released out on bond for capital murder aren't suspected since then in additional murders, then you're dead wrong as well. It's an absolute disaster. We need to address these situations with the seriousness that they demand, and we need to change policy in order to prevent these preventable crimes from occurring again. But hey, those are just my thoughts. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about an absolutely horrific murder. Till next time.